Good morning, buenos días, mi gente. Hope everyone's having a wonderful day now that we are officially rid of 45 and have welcomed in the new administration. We're going to be doing a quick little hot takes on many of the immigration announcements that the Biden administration made yesterday. And we're going to follow this live by doing one in Spanish. So, buenos días, compas. Vamos a estar haciendo dos lives para estar realmente dando una explicación breve de los anuncios de migración que hizo el nuevo presidente Biden ayer. Este live va a ser en inglés y en unos breves momentos vamos a hacer otro en español para que lo puedan compartir con toda la gente que habla español. Entonces, for now, we're going to be going into English, and for folks that want to hear us in Spanish, we'll be doing another live right after this one that folks can share with folks that are Spanish speakers. So we know that we're waking up to a lot of news. A lot of things happened yesterday. There really is a new day and a new chance to fight on new terrain that many of us are really excited about and ready to kind of launch into. So before we kind of get into it, we know that there were so many announcements yesterday, so many executive orders that were signed. We've been seeing both the day one immigration bill that Biden introduced, but also repeals of the Muslim ban, reinstatement of DACA, and a moratorium on deportations. So we just wanted to take a time to really kind of break down and explain to people some of our main takeaways from what's been happening, and really talk about what can happen and where we want to take our organizing next. So with that, I'm just going to get right into it. And that means that we are going to be talking about also what brought us here. So the first thing that we have to talk about is this is really a win that is coming off the years of many years of organizing. We know that when many of us before Mijente even existed and we were organizing under the Not One More Deportation campaign, the whole effort was to bring about a focus onto deportations, to talk about why we had to end deportations, stop them. Many of us, were organizing to stop deportations with our own bodies, right? Doing direct action, civil disobedience. And so we really know that this demand doesn't come out of nowhere. It doesn't come because politicians have come to save us. It comes because organizing brought us this demand. And it's really a powerful statement to have it be brought to life this way. But we also wanted to shout out all of the folks who have been organizing, not only in the streets, but also in on the streets on the way to the ballot box. Because we know that if it hadn't been for efforts like for Trump, if it hadn't been, for efforts like Georgia con Ganas that got out the Latinx vote, that got out the vote in general, to get Trump out of office, to make sure we have a different Senate, to make sure that we have a different, ways of relating to folks in government, that we wouldn't be in this situation either. And lastly, we wanted to shout out that some of this was also around doing some of the behind the scenes work. Our director, Marisa Franco, after Mijente decided to endorse Bernie Sanders for president, was selected to be part of the Unity Task Force that really also set about a way of creating a policy platform that demanded a moratorium on deportations, that demanded all of these things. So for us, it's also just a clear signal that we have to continue to be fighting on all fronts, right? We have to continue to organize in the streets, continue to fight around elections, and also to be able to make sure that our ideas around what our people need and what it would be looks like and what dignity looks like has to be at the forefront. So I think it's also a moment that we wanted to take to pause and just celebrate that, if it weren't for organizing, we wouldn't be here. And so we also have to know that that's the path forward for us as we continue to figure out where we go from here. So with that celebration, with that recognition, let's get into it. Let's break it down. So the first thing that Biden did is he introduced his day one immigration bill. And really what this bill does is it provides a pathway to citizenship, or an intent to provide a pathway to citizenship for the 11 million. We know that this would be an 8-year path to citizenship that includes a lot of different things in the framework. It's important for people to know that this is the bill that's going to be introduced in the Senate by Senator Menendez. And from there, it becomes a whole negotiation and conversation. So this is just the starting point. It's not the finish line. And we know that there's going to be a very long conversation that has to come around after that. There's many things in the bill, including talk about family reunification, also talking about the border and talking about using more tech and surveillance at the border. So we know that it's also a mixed bag. A lot of us still haven't seen the entire text of the bill. And so we're going to be having a call later next week on Monday to be able to do a really thorough breakdown of what it includes, including some of the research that we're going to be doing into what they're talking about when they talk about tech and surveillance at the border, because so far a lot of the language that they're using has been a little bit vague. But we do know that it is really exciting that this bill provides a pathway to citizenship without talking about increases in enforcement, without talking about budget increases for ICE. And so part of our fight is to continue to make sure that that stays that way. As this bill goes to the Senate, as this bill goes to the House, we know that there's going to be a lot of other interests. The far right is going to be pushing for this. Middle of the road Democrats are also going to be pushing for more enforcement. And that's where we really have to hold the line, is ensuring that this is a path to citizenship that does not include more criminalization. So that's the fight that we have on the bill, on the legislative process. But now we get to talk about the announcement around the moratorium. So to give people a quick breakdown, the moratorium is a 100-day moratorium on deportations. This is also a really important win for many. We've been hearing rumors for a while that maybe it would be a 30-day moratorium or a shorter moratorium, but it is a 100-day moratorium. And it includes most deportations, although it does have some exceptions that are exceptions that leave a lot of discretion for ICE agents. So the categories are supposed to be terrorism and other categories like that, but we have seen in other moments of history how those categories can be manipulated. And so this is a chance for folks to be really vigilant about what they're seeing and what they're hearing on the ground, because if we are seeing deportations, we want to be able to immediately push back. Now, what's going to happen, during those 100 days? This order also says that DHS has to do a complete review of enforcement practices and priorities. So this is the time, this is the window that is opening up for us to organize. We know that we cannot trust DHS to conduct its own review, right? That their review is going to be a lot of just, saying that this is fine, we should continue with this. This is the moment that we really have to make sure that the voices of the folks who have been directly impacted by ICE and DHS and CBP in not only the last 4 years under Trump, but since the inception of these agencies, are heard and are at the forefront to really demand what our vision is of how enforcement has to be overhauled and how ICE and CBP have to be reined in. So we see this as an opportunity to continue to push, continue to organize, continue to fight. And so we just want to let people know that this is coming. So kind of know that there's a plan in the works to figure out how we can create these spaces for our community members to be able to also impact the way that this review is happening. This isn't a review or an investigation that we called for. And so that we also have to use that as an organizing vehicle to continue to push for everything that we know our communities need, including an end to Operation Streamline, an end to secure communities and the use of detainers, an end to 287G. These are all concrete demands that have come out from people's fights in their cities, in their states. And this is our chance to kind of continue to see if we can push to get those over the finish line. And, the memo also includes a new priorities for how enforcement is supposed to be happening in the next 100 days. Now, it looks like a couple things to sort of note there is that the categories that they're saying are, still going to be interim enforcement priorities are 3. 1, people engaged in or suspected of terrorism or espionage or who pose a national security risk. 2, people apprehended at the border or ports of entry while on or after November 1st of 2020. And people who are incarcerated in federal, state, and local prisons and released after the issuance of this memo for an aggravated felony. Now, this is something that is important for us to be watching and kind of looking at really closely for a couple of reasons. One is, we know that under immigration law, the category of aggravated felony is one that is completely at the discretion of ICE agents. Aggravated felonies don't have to be aggravated or don't have to be felonies to be counted by ICE as such. And so this is a place where we really know that we want to be watching, because it's a place where we can continue to push, to expand what the definition is of who's going to be considered or basically expand who we want to be protected and not like classified under this definition. So as people are reading this memo and thinking about new fronts of battle, that is definitely going to be one of the areas we're going to have to push and fight and try to figure out where we go next from. But it is important to note that it isn't saying that anyone who's been released before this memo is going to be a priority. So it does still offer some protection from arrest for folks that might have aggravated felonies now, but have been released a couple of years ago from jail. So this is also something important to note, because we know a lot of our folks that we've been fighting for, who have been fighting against deportation, as we read this memo, it looks like they're still going to be protected. And so this is something that we want to continue to make sure is again, we improve on as we're thinking of future memos that are going to be coming out. So basically what we have is a moratorium on deportations for 100 days. We have a 100-day review process of enforcement, and we have these interim priorities that give us a sense of what the administration is thinking of in terms of how they want to prioritize enforcement. We know that a lot of these categories are not perfect. We know that they leave a lot of discretion for ICE agents, and they give us some room to continue to fight. But it is important to note that it is an improvement on, for example, a lot of the priority memos we had under Obama. And so, for us, this is just a marker that when we fight, when we organize, we actually are able to push the limits. And so now we have a 100-day sprint to continue to push even harder in terms of what our communities need and what we want to see. So this is kind of the quick and dirty breakdown. Folks can see in the comments. We'll share the actual memo. We'll share also how you can sign up for this call that we'll be having next week, where we'll give much more detailed analysis. Right now, we just wanted to do quick and dirty top line things. And we'll continue to organize. Again, next week, we'll be launching a way for people to engage in this review process, a way for us to continue to push to make this not just the moratorium on deportations, but a path to be able to end deportations and really rein in DHS, right? Both ICE and CBP that we know have conducted so much harm, have done so many awful things in our communities. Now is our chance to fight. So, Pa'lante, gente, this win was brought to you by organizing. And so we know that the path forward continues to include that fight. And yeah, it's a new day, and it's a new chance to be able to push for everything that our people need. So thank you so much. And ahorita venimos en español. So thank you so much, and we'll come back in Spanish right now.